Hi everyone, it's great to be back with you again today at Melissa's. Thank you so much to Robert for hosting us again this year. And I want to introduce you to my dear friend and colleague, Dr. Simon Poole.
Well, thank you, Amy. Yes, and it's a real privilege and pleasure to be here in the US and joining up and working with Amy again. I'm just really looking forward to seeing all of Amy's fabulous creations once again.
So I've told Simon all about Melissa's, and we wanted very much to be with you in LA again. I can't wait to come back out, and he would definitely love to join me, but it's a little bit tricky with our schedules because he's based in England and I'm based in DC, so we decided to go the virtual route, but hopefully next year we'll be back with you in person. And so today we're talking about culinary medicine. We're talking about foods that are really good for you, diabetes friendly, that can help you to prevent or transform diabetes. And let's just get right started in making our quinoa, mango, and avocado timbal. So don't be scared, anybody who's never made a timbal before. It's just really a fancy word for something that you've made in a mold. And I'm going to use these little molds that I got in Italy, but you can use something that you get at the hardware store. You know, a pipe will work, an emptied out, bottomed out can of tuna will work. You really just need a mold. And if you don't have a mold, you could use a ramekin. So it's a delicious recipe and a wonderful style that you can use with other foods to just elevate the look a little bit.
And isn't it fantastic actually when food looks the part, looks wonderful, and you also know it's going to be fabulously healthy. I think that just combines everything and it makes it such a pleasure.
And there's a little bit of science in that too, right? The pleasure of the eye and looking at something before we eat it, how we digest it, how we absorb the nutrients. So the first thing we're going to be cooking is our quinoa, and I know that you all are not strangers to quinoa. Melissa's makes a wonderful red quinoa that I love. Today, just for fun, I mixed this up a little bit of red quinoa and white quinoa. So what do you love the most from a nutritional standpoint about this ingredient?
Well, I think the thing about quinoa is it just illustrates the fact that foods are not just simply carbohydrates or proteins or fats. Most foods combine those three macronutrients.
Right.
And the great thing about quinoa is it's high in proteins and it contains all those essential amino acids. It's quite unique amongst plants to do that. It delivers all those important proteins. It's great for vegetarians, for example. It also packs a lot of fiber, some healthy fats, and some great carbohydrates which are low glycemic index, which means the sugars rise very slowly. So this is a great food for people who have diabetes or prediabetes, or actually it's just a really healthy food because the foods for people with diabetes are also great foods for people who don't necessarily have diabetes.
Exactly. And it's very easy to cook, as a lot of you know. I like it because it's a blank culinary canvas. You can use it in so many different applications. Today we're going to serve it cold. And so now I'm going to show you actually how I cook it. So I'm going to turn my flame onto high. Then I'll add my quinoa. So it's a cup of quinoa to a cup and a half of water. And I'll just give that a stir. You can use white quinoa, red. If you don't have quinoa at home and you want to use a different whole grain, that's really fine too. You just want to stir it up and make sure that nothing is clumping together. So now our quinoa has come to a boil, so I'm just going to stir it and then turn it down to medium or medium-low and then cover it. In about 5 to 10 minutes it will fluff up and we can use it to make the base of our timbal. So I'm just chopping up a little bit of shallot now. Melissa sent these beautiful shallots, which I love. It's one of my favorite ingredients. And we talk a lot about aromatics. You know, we talked about them yesterday in our presentation. And aromatics like onions and shallots and leeks and garlic are so important in cooking because they add so much flavor depending upon how you cook them or leave them raw, plus a lot of nutrients. And it tastes great with a mango. So we also got these beautiful mangoes from Melissa's. I love their mangoes. I'm a little bit of a mango snob because from my time living in Egypt, Egypt has amazing mangoes. They have many varieties that they got hundreds of years ago from India. And so they're just beautiful. And up until then, up until I knew what Melissa's had, I was not very happy with what was imported into the United States. But they've got great ones. So I'm just going to slice it in half and then put it into this mixture. You know, a lot of times here we use mangoes in the United States in savory applications like in this one, and I never knew why. But then when I tasted the mangoes, I said, okay, they're a little bit different. You know, they have a very different kind of a flavor than, you know, some of what you're used to in other places.
It has quite a low or moderate glycemic index, which is the term we use to describe how quickly the glucose rises in our blood. So a small amount of mango can be really healthful, particularly if it's combined with other ingredients. And so as part of a salad or part of this dish, it can work really, really well. And you don't need to worry too much about your sugar rise as long as you're having it, particularly if you have it with a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a little while.
Well, speaking of which, we could actually talk about it right now.
Well, yes. So extra virgin olive oil, which will be added to this dish as a drizzle, is a fat, of course. It's a really healthy fat, full of monounsaturated fats, which are great for your cholesterol.
And now we can just take out the pit and start using the flesh so that that can go into our remainder of our recipe. And sometimes it sticks a little bit like this. Just pull it with the tip of the knife. It's not a problem. And then we can scoop out all of that beautiful flesh. I do this every single day. There's always a reason that I use avocado, because I love the flavor, I love the texture, and they're also so good for us, in terms of healthful fats. And I heard that they even help with depression.
Yeah, again, they're rich in micronutrients as well as the great fats and compounds called luteins, which give them some of their green color, which again are these fabulous bioactive compounds. And there is some research which shows that the Mediterranean diet, full of beautiful ingredients such as avocados, can reduce the risks of depression and also of anxiety and improve mental health. So we are at the beginning of trying to understand why that occurs, possibly because of beneficial effects on our trillions of gut microbes, because they love to consume this kind of food. And
exactly.
How many of us wake up every morning thinking, what am I going to feed my trillions of gut bacteria on today?
Right.
But we should be.
And I'm just going to give myself a little bit of zest into the mango and the avocado mixture for color, but also for flavor, because as you know, all of those wonderful oils. Can you smell that already just arriving at you? But if you put your nose up to it, you can already smell the essential oils being released from the lime. And it looks so, so beautiful just to see those colors together right now. I'm going to add some of this Piqualia olive oil in. So this is Simon's olive oil. He's got a new product coming out in England. Now we're going to go and add some spice into the quinoa. So I'm going to add a little bit of our Himalayan salt again, and then we'll do some of our rainbow peppercorns. And then we've got some almonds for a little bit of extra protein, extra healthful fat, extra magnesium. And then I've got a little bit, in the recipe I call for chopped parsley, but I got this beautiful cilantro, so I'm using that. Cilantro is a great detoxifier. And what are some of the reasons why you like the almonds and the cilantro?
Well, so almonds, yes, nuts in general, tree nuts in particular, are really healthful. So nuts, very, very important, about 30 grams, about a handful a day, spread out through the day, perhaps unsalted, with skin on, great idea.
Wonderful. So now that I've got this quinoa all seasoned up, I'm just going to put it right into the bottom of my mold and just kind of set it in there. And it's very forgiving. This recipe, even though it might look intimidating if you're not used to putting things into molds or whatever, it's very intimidating. It's very intimidating to new people, but it's not at all when you actually go to make it. It's forgiving. So you can go through afterwards and just kind of fix up any errors. And when you buy these molds, buy a bunch, because then if you're having a dinner party or anything like that, you can just do them all together. And it makes such a beautiful presentation. You can chill the food and then serve it at the last minute when it's all in this beautiful tower. They use them a lot for tartars. So if you're a fan of salmon tartare or something like this, you're probably familiar with these little molds.
I'm just getting those beautiful aromas. And coriander's got a really interesting polyphenol called camphorol. Again, not many people are aware, but again, there's some research to show that it might support reductions in blood pressure, as well as having anti-inflammatory effects. And our modern lifestyles cause so much background chronic inflammation that it's so important to rebalance that by getting these really great antioxidants in our diet from these beautiful, beautiful aromatic herbs and spices, in particular, extra virgin olive oil and so on.
So now I'm just going to layer the mango and the avocado mixture on top of the quinoa mixture. And you could, as I mentioned before, you could do the mango and the quinoa separate. But today, because these were really, really ripe, they were kind of, as I was cutting them, they weren't staying into cubes, so they're going to taste better. So I just figured put them together, make like a salsa out of it, and then use that for the topping. and I can't wait to dig in. If you do eat, other types of protein, like you wanted to put some shrimp on top of this or chicken, you could do that as well. It would taste really great. Or fish, smoked salmon, anything. I like to have versatile recipes. I'm not one of those people who writes a cookbook so that everybody can go around and say, well, I make this one thing that Amy makes. I would much rather you incorporate this into your own diet and do all kinds of different things that you like, that make sense for you and the people that you love and the people that you cook for. To me, that's a sign of a successful recipe.
And in all your recipes in the book, you have a little section which is on Vary It, I think is the title.
Correct.
Which gives you all these other options that you can make, or even make up yourself to make slight changes to these dishes, but still maintain their beautiful integrity and health, and also in taste.
And then once we're done, we can kind of smooth out the top. And then we're going to come in and put on some greens. So you could use microgreens, you could use edible flowers, you could do herbs, parsley, whatever you like in terms of a fresh, crunchy green on top of this. We're using kale today. And kale was so in style for, it's trendy for a while that people now don't want it, but it's still a wonderful thing to eat. Don't let its moment in fame deter you from eating any really leafy green. I also love dandelion greens. And when they're in season, Robert will usually send me some of those. They're my favorite.
And I always advise, try and go for a green that's got a little bit of pungency, a little bit of bitterness, that flavor, rather than necessarily go for the most common, the iceberg lettuce, for example, which is really quite low in flavor and also in healthy active ingredients. So go for something really beautifully green and maybe with a little bit of red in it as well. So there are some beautiful leaves, aren't there, with just a hint of red in them as well.
Radicchio, you could do a mixture of radicchio and arugula, whatever you like. And then once you've got this all molded, all we have to do is kind of slide the mold off and up and just hold your greens down. And you get that wonderful timbal shape. And then we're going to garnish with a tomato on top. There we go. It's always like the ta-da moment because you don't know how
I'm sure that would not have worked for me.
Or not. The high note or the making of the timbal, which one would not work for you? I think you could do both.
No, I'm just worried that it will collapse on me, but I'm reassured that looks fabulous.
And you could use tweezers. If you had tweezers or tongs, you could come through and use that. I'm just going to always clear up the edge of the presentation. So there we have our quinoa, mango, and avocado timbals. I will give you the big one because you're visiting.
Thank you.
So now we're doing pan-seared scallops with a roasted red pepper and black bean sauce. This could be an appetizer or a main dish.
And the thing I love about this is all of the ingredients have their individual health properties as well. So we've got the scallops, rich in omega-3s, which we know are healthy fats from fish, which perhaps protect our cardiac function, our heart function. We've got peppers, bell peppers, which are rich in vitamin C, more vitamin C in a bell pepper than there is in an average orange. And capsaicin, which is a polyphenol which you find in other chili plants, which gives it that heat, and that's a very important anti-inflammatory. And then, of course, we've got the yogurt, which, again, wonderful probiotic for our gut microbiome. And then the beans, and really we don't eat enough beans.
No,
beans are fantastic. They pack in the fiber, they pack in the B vitamins, they pack in the micronutrients, and the color that they are, this beautiful dark color with the anthocyanins, which are polyphenols. So again, a fantastic array of really healthful foods, great for blood glucose control, but great for general health as well.
Definitely. Let us know if you guys are into beans and legumes and if you're eating them, because we should be getting, per the Mediterranean diet, at least one serving of them per day. We're doing black beans today, which are a little more popular in the US, but you could do cannellini beans, chickpeas, fava, which I know Melissa's has, that are also delicious. But I wanted to go with black this time for the contrast of the recipe, because you've got the white of the scallops, the black of the beans. And this is what they look like raw, so they're almost kind of like these little pebbles. And then when you cook them, they look like this. In all of our books, we have a base recipes chapter that teaches you how to do stock, roasted red peppers, other roasted vegetables, vinaigrettes, breadcrumbs, because that's where a lot of unwanted sodium and fat hang out. So if you can make them on your own, just like one day a week, dedicate half an hour to cooking beans and doing things like this, you will really come out ahead in terms of nutrition and also saving time and money. our roasted red pepper. This guy came from Melissa's, but I already roasted these in the oven at 500 degrees. And in the book, we teach you how to do that. And so I'm going to start by sauteing our scallops. Make sure you buy dry, what they're called dry scallops, because I learned the hard way that scallops can be injected with a substance called TSP, which makes them more plump. But unfortunately, it's a chemical substance, and also it prevents the scallops from browning. So you really want to buy them dry so that you make sure that you don't get any of that in your recipe. So I'm going to turn my pan on like a screaming hot, high temperature, and then I'm going to add in my olive oil. This is my olive oil, so it's Amy Riolo Selections. It's a 100% Carolea olive from Calabria. And it is wonderful because it's rich in polyphenols and also very low in acid, has a wonderful flavor, and it's really going to help to coat our scallops. But you could use whatever type of olive oil you prefer. You want to make sure that your pan's nice and hot, and then whenever the recipe says coat the bottom of the pan, people always ask me, what does that mean? Well, this is what it means, that the olive oil is just hot enough that you can literally do this. And Simon and I talk all the time about how good it is to cook with extra virgin olive oil, because a lot of people think that you can't do that. Make sure that you're putting these down kind of evenly spaced, just so that they get equal access to the heat. You want to always make sure that you can hear the sizzle, that you can hear that taking place. And the scallops are really cute because they're going to tell you on their own when they're ready to be turned. You don't have to do guesswork, you don't have to figure anything out. They'll show you when they're ready to be flipped. And basically you can tell because the bottom's going to get a little bit small and it's going to start to make a different noise. And then what you'll do is you'll take your tongs and try to turn them. And if they resist really hard and you have to pull them, then they're not ready. You have to just leave them. I like to say they're like angry people. If they're not going to want to come with you, just let them be. Eventually they'll come around. That's how scallops are, or really any protein that you're cooking like this in olive oil. This right now is fighting, so I'm just going to let it hang out. This one will come back too, and if it's ready to turn, then you can just flip it, and that's how we know it's done. You can also do this, and if they don't go anywhere, you know they need a little bit of more time on the flame. I'm going to turn my flame down a little bit. So once it gets really screeching hot, you can go down just a notch and give it another layer of flavor. That's additional, you don't have to, but I like to. And now they're done, so we can just turn them off. Because they're golden on both sides, that's all we need. You know, turn it off, come back and make our sauce.
So you mentioned how good it was to cook in extra virgin olive oil, and I have no doubt you were not going near the smoke point of extra virgin olive oil in that cooking, in everyday cooking you've done.
Right.
And the wonderful thing about extra virgin olive oil is because it does tolerate heat, it's protecting those heat-sensitive omega-3 fats, which are polyunsaturated fats in the fish. It's protecting them from the heat, so preventing them from breaking down. So cooking with extra virgin olive oil, as they do throughout the Mediterranean, part of the Mediterranean diet, is a really helpful way to cook and help preserve some of the foods that you're cooking.
Such a wonderful point. And now I'm going to add a little bit of this new spicy mixture that Melissa's has. So it's got white sea salt, sesame seeds, and red pepper flakes, which I love. They're, as you all know, the pepperoncino are my favorite ingredients. So we'll add them to give a little seasoning to our scallops. And then we'll start on our sauce. Okay. So to do this, I'm using this little blender today, but you all can do whatever you want. Just add your roasted red peppers in. And I like to do this in a big quantity because then I can add it into other recipes, just kind of use it as a dip later on. It's basically Greek yogurt and roasted red peppers. So how can you go wrong with those two ingredients? I like Greek yogurt, especially people who are trying to maintain an equal blood glucose, because it has a good protein in it. It also has a good source of carbohydrate and the fat in just one ingredient. So a lot of people ask, I need a snack. I have diabetes. What do I eat before bed? Kind of thing. And if they're not lactose intolerant, then this can be a really good solution for them.
And the yogurt, the dairy products, although we've been having problems with them in terms of their saturated fat content, actually there's some evidence that dairy products, particularly fermented dairy products like cheese and yogurt, don't increase the risk of cardiac disease and actually are very protective in terms of diabetes. So a really important point to mention, yogurt is great for people who want to prevent or control diabetes.
That's wonderful. So we've got the red peppers and the yogurt in here. I'm just going to blend it. And now that our sauce is blended, we can just give it a try and make sure that it really is as blended as it's supposed to be. Yes, it looks nice and creamy. And look at that color. Isn't it beautiful?
Absolutely beautiful.
It's almost as beautiful as the tulips that are in front of us here in the kitchen. This gorgeous orange color, I think is so inviting and so appetizing. So I'm going to start plating this up, and all I have to do is just pour a little bit of the sauce down on the bottom. And then I'm going to come and smooth it around. You want to make sure that it covers all of the interior of the plate. You know, you could do this with roasted carrots as well if you didn't like pepper for some reason, or you wanted to do something different. But this nice contrast of the orange and the white and the black, I think is gorgeous. And then we'll take our scallops, they're nice and golden, and just set them right down on top. See how easily they turn once they're cooked? I think that's a great little tip for everybody to remember at home, is not to fight with them. When I used to teach cooking classes, people would sit there and go back and forth and really try to use all of their might to coax the chicken or the meat or the whatever we were cooking with force. You've got to let the food be the guide sometimes. And so now I'm going to garnish with a little bit of our black beans. I think this is so pretty. And it's really elegant. As we were talking about before, it's healthful food, but it's also really nice to present. And I think it gives restaurant food a run for its money, especially because not only does it look good, but it's really good for you. And that's the key to sustaining a healthful diet, I think, a long time, is things that are pleasing to us, to the eye, to the palate. So now I'm just going to garnish this with a little bit of cilantro. You all can use, whatever herbs you prefer, but I do like the look of the cilantro with this recipe, so we'll put some right down in the middle there. It's easy for any weeknight, but it's really worthy of a special occasion. So here we have our pan-seared scallops with roasted red pepper sauce and black beans. So recently, Dr. Simon Poole and I put together 3 different books within this trilogy of a series for dummies called Diabetes for Dummies. Then we did the Diabetes Meal Planning and Nutrition, and now we have the Diabetes Cookbook for Dummies. And we're super proud of these because they really get to the heart of what you need to live and to eat with both pleasure and health in mind.
Absolutely, and we're wanting to change the paradigm on diabetes, the approach to pre-diabetes and diabetes, and to show that actually a great way of living, a great diet, a great cooking and eating experience for somebody who has pre-diabetes or diabetes should be the same for us all and everybody, and the whole family should be enjoying the healthful recipes in here, which manage glucose really well, which demonstrate the Mediterranean diet, which prevents chronic diseases, really sustainable because people enjoy the kind of recipes that you present us with, and sustainable also for the planet, which we always have to think of in nutritional terms. So we hope you enjoy this, and we hope you really are excited by the possibility of managing diabetes better and even potentially preventing complications and reversing it through diet and lifestyle measures.
Each of the books has a slightly different angle. So the Diabetes for Dummies book is more of a medical book, right? And you really worked hard to find, the latest nutrition and the latest scientific advice and knowledge that you could put in there for people to help to manage to live their best life with diabetes, and also hopefully to transform it. And then with this book, the Diabetes Meal Planning and Nutrition, we looked a lot at what you should be eating and why. So Simon put a wonderful chart in there with all of the polyphenols isolated, these wonderful antioxidants that you can enjoy in different foods. Then he talked about the foods that they were found in and what they can do for our body. We give you actual meal plans that you could follow, but they're very versatile. So, you don't have to eat just one way. There's something in there for everybody, and hopefully everybody that you share the food with will also enjoy it. And then with the last book in the series, which is the Diabetes Cookbook for Dummies, this one has 135 recipes in it. Each one of them is all a complete nutritional meal. So it has the 3 macronutrients in it, and they also look really beautiful. I mean, this is one example of what we made. This is our pan-seared scallops with a roasted red pepper and black bean sauce. Another one that we have is a timbal made of quinoa and mango and avocado with some greens and a little bit of tomato on top. So as you can see, these are really restaurant quality worth dishes. They look great, they taste great, and they're really good for your body. Thank you all so much for cooking along with us today. It was a lot of fun, and I hope that we stay in touch and that you really enjoy these books.